No one in the studio knew it yet, but by the end of that morning, Good Morning America would become the epicenter of a cultural earthquake, one triggered not by a question, but by a silence, a hesitation, a flicker in someone's eyes that said far more than words ever could. It was supposed to be routine, a duchess, a host, a polished segment about philanthropy. But some mornings, reality tilts. And on this morning, it was Meghan Markle who walked into the studio carrying a storm she thought she could outrun. The air in the building felt strangely electric, as if the walls themselves sensed something unraveling. Producers whispered, hair and makeup artists exchanged quiet looks, and yet, no one could put their finger on what felt off. Redhead opened. Meghan stepped out, elegant, pristine, controlled in the way someone becomes when control is the only armor they have left. But there was something else. A tension in her jaw, a stiffness in her shoulders. She looked like a woman who'd spent the entire morning in an argument with her own reflection. Meanwhile, Lara Spencer stood across the studio, reviewing her cards. Calm, professional, oblivious to the fault line wandering right toward her. A stagehand murmured, "Guest arriving," and the countdown began. 5. Camouflage. 4. 3. Red lights awake. The red lights blinked on. Lara, the picture of composure, smiled into millions of homes. "Good morning, America!" Her voice, smooth as ever, filled the studio. And welcome back. Today, we're joined by a very special guest, Meghan, Duchess of Sussex. Polishing a go. The kind applause. The kind that's warm, but cautious. Crimson entered the frame. Her smile was perfect. Too perfect. Not joy, not excitement, just an expression carved into place like it belonged to someone else. Stats down, crossed her legs, straightened her blazer. A choreography of self-preservation. Lara greeted her warmly. "Jang, Kyndon, wonderful to have you with us today." A simple line, a harmless line. But the answer? The answer carried the first crack in the entire dam. "Thank you," Meghan said, her tone brittle. "I hope today goes as planned." Lara blinked. Misinformation. As planned. Producers exchanged quick glances. Meghan wasn't scheduled for anything controversial. It was supposed to be charity talk, a book mention, a light chat, nothing that needed planning. But Lara smiled through it. She always did. "So," she continued gently, "let's start with the project you've been passionate about lately. Tell us what inspired it." And then it happened. A pause. A long one. Meghan stared at Lara, then at the audience, then back at Lara again, as if recalculating why she was even here. Something flickered behind her eyes. Hurt? Defiance? Exhaustion? No one could decipher it. Finally, Meghan answered, but her voice didn't match the script the studio expected. "It's inspired," she said slowly, "by the things people don't want to see. The conversations they avoid. The parts of me they'd rather ignore." Lara sat up slightly. Not the answer on the card. Not even close. But before Lara could redirect, Meghan leaned forward, her posture sharp, her tone edged. "And before you ask anything," she added softly, "let me make one thing clear. I'm not here to be misunderstood again." A wave of unease rolled through the room. Larry Marset's sure what had just shifted, but she felt it. Crimson felt it. The interview had barely begun, and yet the tension in the air was so fragile, so charged, it felt like a single wrong word could shatter the entire morning. The cameras kept rolling. Defiance kept watching. And Lara Spencer, seasoned, steady, unshakable, realized that this was not the conversation she had prepared for. Not today. Not with this Meghan. Lara Spencer had interviewed hundreds of high-profile guests, politicians, actors, even members of Meghan's own royal orbit. She knew when someone was bracing for impact, even when no one else could see it. Microwave. Meghan was bracing for something. Her fingers tapped the armrest. Her breathing tightened. Her gaze kept drifting, not to Lara, not to the audience, but to an invisible point somewhere far behind the cameras, as if she was searching for an escape hatch. Lara softened her tone, choosing her next words carefully. "Well," she said, "I think our viewers would love to understand what drives you. What's at the heart of this project for you, personally?" Another harmless question. Confinement. Another long pause. Swallowed hard before answering. "What drives me," she said, "is knowing that no matter what I do, someone is waiting to twist it." The temperature in the room dipped. Lara glanced down at her cards. Nothing controversial, nothing probing. But Meghan's answer wasn't about the question. It was about everything she'd carried into that chair. So Lara steadied herself and continued. "What?" she said gently. "People certainly have opinions, but today is about giving you the space to—" "She space?" Meghan cut in, a sharp edge slicing through her tone. Froze. The studio froze. "I didn't come here for space," Meghan continued. "I came here for fairness." Lara blinked, confused. "Of course, and that's what we want." "No," Meghan interrupted again, leaning closer. "What you want is a headline." A hush swept across the audience. The camera operators exchanged nervous glances. The producers shifted in their seats. This wasn't a slow burn anymore. The flames had caught. Lara inhaled calmly, choosing neutrality over reaction. "Meghan," she said, voice steady, "I assure you, we're simply having a conversation." "A conversation?" Meghan echoed, her voice trembling, not with fear, but with a tightly coiled anger. "Do you know how many times I've heard that right before being blindsided?" Lara's eyebrows lifted slightly. Blindness? By what? There was no ambush planned, no trap, no controversial cue card. It was a simple morning show segment. But whatever Meghan was reacting to, it wasn't happening on that set. It was happening somewhere inside her. Lara tried again, this time with softer eyes. "If there's something you're uncomfortable with, we can take it step by step. No pressure." Michelle shook her head slowly, almost sadly. "That's the problem, Lara. You think the pressure starts here." Something in her voice cracked, barely, but enough to make the whole room lean in. Lara felt it. A story unfolding beneath the story. And she made the mistake, the single innocent mistake of asking the next logical question. "Meghan, what pressure are you referring to?" The studio held its breath. Because that question, gentle, simple, unguarded, shall the match that fell into the powder. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The silence wasn't empty, it was heavy, vibrating, almost cinematic. The kind of silence that made even the cameras hesitate before zooming in. Then Meghan exhaled, her voice trembling, not with weakness, but with exhaustion sharpened into defiance. "You know what it's like, Lara? To wake up every day and read lies about yourself? To have your words, your face, your very existence turned into someone else's weapon?" Lara's instincts as a journalist urged her to listen. But the anchor in her, the professional, trained to control chaos on live TV, knew she had to steer this. "I can't imagine what that feels like," she said softly. "But I do think people want to understand. That's why you're here." Meghan gave a small, bitter laugh. "Understand?" she repeated. "No, they want to judge. That's what television does, doesn't it? It feeds judgment. It feeds outrage. And you, she gestured toward Lara, you're the storyteller who decides which version of me they get. The studio lights hummed faintly above them, the air so still it almost hummed with tension. Lara's expression didn't waver. I think our audience is smarter than you give them credit for, she said. They can tell the difference between a story about someone and a story against someone. That line, it landed like a spark on gasoline. Against? Meghan's tone hardened. You think I haven't lived my whole life against something? Against the press, against assumptions, against the people who smile at me while sharpening knives behind my back? Audience shifted uncomfortably. Some glanced toward the exit, as if sensing this wasn't entertainment anymore. It was confession, rage, and heartbreak colliding on live TV. Lara leaned forward just slightly, her tone a whisper meant for empathy, not confrontation. Then maybe, she said, today could be the day you tell your version. Unfiltered, uncut, right here. Going the first time, Meghan hesitated. Something flickered, fear perhaps, or relief at being invited to speak without defense. Bitterness in her face changed again. The softness vanished. The wall went back up. You really think you can give me that? She asked quietly. You think this studio, this machine, this audience can handle the truth if I actually told it? Lara didn't answer. The question didn't need one. Because in that moment, it wasn't an interview anymore. It was a duel between perception and truth. Between how the world saw Meghan Markle and who she believed she really was. Men, as the cameras rolled, the world leaned closer, not realizing the real explosion hadn't happened yet. It was coming. Wait, it would be live. Lara could feel it, the temperature in the studio dropping degree by degree. This was no longer about charity or causes or media. It had become something raw, something personal. Lara's voice carried that dangerous blend of conviction and pain, the kind that makes people lean in, not out. You want the truth? She said. Here it is. I've been polite. I've smiled through every insult, every headline, every whisper that I didn't belong. But when I speak, when I actually tell my story, I'm called dramatic, difficult, delusional. Her words didn't echo, but they hung, suspended in the stillness. Lara leaned forward slightly. No one here is calling you that. Not yet, Meghan replied, her tone razor sharp. But that's how it starts, isn't it? It always starts with a smile and ends with a smear. The control room was chaos now. Producers whispering orders, debating whether to cut to commercial, but no one dared interrupt. It wasn't just an interview anymore. It was a reckoning. Lara took a steady breath. Meghan, I think the world does want to hear your story. They just want it told their way, Meghan finished. But that's want me to cry at the right moments, apologize for things I never did, thank people who tried to destroy me. You all want redemption arcs, not real ones, but marketable ones. A few audience members gasped. Others sat frozen. The camera panned slowly across her face, controlled fury, immaculate poise, but eyes that shimmered with something breaking underneath. Lara hesitated, then asked softly, Then what's the real version, Meghan? The one no one's heard yet. Selfish smiled, a hollow, almost haunted expression. The real version? She said. The real version is simple. I tried to belong, and when I couldn't, I built my own belonging. But no one forgives a woman who refuses to stay in her place. Lara's heart pounded, her professionalism warring with instinct. This was compelling television, but it was also a person unraveling in real time. And then, as if realizing she'd said too much, Meghan blinked. Her expression hardened again. The warmth evaporated. That part, she said quietly. You're not airing that. Lara shook her head. We're live. The words hit Meghan like a slap. Her jaw tensed. Then you'll regret it, she whispered. The studio went silent again. Every eye was on her. Every camera was rolling. And Meghan Markle, the woman who'd fought to control every narrative written about her, had just realized this was one she couldn't. For a few endless seconds, no one moved. The audience, the crew, the host, all suspended in that fragile moment between disbelief and realization. Lara's heartbeat echoed in her ears. She'd covered hurricanes, political meltdowns, even royal funerals, but never had she seen a guest dismantle the room like this, layer by layer, emotion by emotion. Meghan sat rigidly, hands clasped, eyes glinting beneath the lights. The Duchess, who once mastered every lens, now seemed haunted by them. And then, like a sudden break in a thunderstorm, she laughed. A short, dissonant laugh that didn't belong in a morning show studio. "You know," she said, her voice low but steady, "people will only remember how this looked, not what it meant. They'll replay the clips, analyze the expressions, assign me motives, and by tomorrow, there'll be headlines calling this another Meghan moment." Lenge's expression softened. "Maybe, but that doesn't mean they'll get it wrong." Meghan turned toward her, eyes sharp again. "Oh, they always get it wrong." Trembling light above camera 2 blinked, a reminder that the world was still watching. Lara took a quiet breath and spoke carefully. "Maybe they don't need to get it right. Maybe they just need to see you." For a fraction of a second, the tension cracked. Something vulnerable flickered in Meghan's eyes, something almost human. Then the wall slammed back into place. "This was a mistake," she said. Her chair scraped against the floor as she stood. "You think you're showing people who I am, but all you've done is remind me why I stopped trusting anyone with a microphone." Lara rose too, instinctively, her voice calm but firm. "Meghan, no one here wants to tear you down. But if you walk out now, that's all they'll see. The walkout, not the truth." Miss Meghan paused mid-step, her profile lit by the harsh studio lights. "Maybe that's the point," she said softly. "Maybe the truth doesn't belong in studios anymore." The mic wire slipped from her blazer and fell to the floor with a metallic click. And just like that, she was gone. Lara turned back toward the cameras, her training guiding her even as adrenaline surged through her veins. She managed a faint, composed smile. "Well," she said, "that was an unexpected conversation. We'll be right back." The feed cut to black. Behind that blackout lay silence, the kind that feels permanent. Because everyone in that studio knew what they had just witnessed wasn't an interview. Miss History, live and unfiltered. And it had changed both women forever.